people who are dedicated to empowering others. She enjoys reading, playing video games, and spending time with her family. Louise's presentation today is on striving to live our ethical values. Louise.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it very much, and I'm happy to be here with you virtually. As ethical humanists, we strive to live our values. We are committed to ethical action and relationship building. This morning, I am encouraging you to explore those values and the challenges of living up to them with me. I was introduced to the goals and core values of humanism by those who have lived and are living its principles, and first and foremost by author Kurt Vonnegut, who wrote in his book, The Sirens of Titan, "A purpose of life, no matter who is controlling it, is to love whoever is around to be loved." When I'm at the Ethical Society, whether physically or virtually, this is typically very easy to do, because for the most part, we all share a similar set of values, and we especially embrace kindness. While preparing for this talk, I became curious about the core values and principles that other societies embrace. You're familiar with our core values. The first time I spoke on this topic was at the Ethical Society Mid-Rivers, and I noticed that their Sikh core values and the Sikh core values at the Ethical Society of St. Louis are nearly the same. Mid-Rivers has the extra line right at the top that states, "Ethics is my way." I also explored the guiding principles at the Brooklyn Society for Ethical Culture, and another society that had invited me to speak on this topic. Again, they're very similar. Both speak to the inherent worth of every human being. Both encourage us to consider the consequences of our actions and motivate us to live ethically. I appreciate all the core values and guiding principles put forth by ethical societies, but the last line of our core values, "I strive to live my values," especially resonates with me. It speaks to the reality that we are human and fallible. The best we can do is strive, and we will fall short. We should be prepared for that. This perspective brings to mind the Humanist Manifesto, the title of 3 manifestos laying out a humanist worldview. It was written by humanists and philosophers. One was drafted in 1933, the second in 1973, and the third in 2003. There are 3 of them because humanists understand the need to update and revise guiding documents. The ideas in the Humanist Manifesto encompass our core values, but the manifesto is very different from religious scriptures. The authors recognize that the passages are written by human beings. We're not perfect, and the documents may need to change over time. Even the St. Louis Society's Sikh core values have been modified. I hear that "ethics is my religion" once topped our list, but some members didn't feel comfortable with the word religion. And while ethical humanism is my religion, I can understand how some may feel alienated by that word. Humanism is flexible that way. We're a bunch of people doing our best to figure out the big picture of life. We're free to choose what humanism means to us. We're free to question. We are free to choose what we believe. There we go. Unlike traditional religious congregations, we come together to follow a scripture, we don't. Unlike other traditional religious congregations, which do come together to follow a scripture or the wisdom of a great religious teacher, ethical societies are guided by the best in human thinking in the areas of ethics, science, and well-being. Humanism is a collection, it's a collective name for all that human wisdom, which we seek to use to transform ourselves and our world. Because of this, we value science, evolution as our creation story, and we understand the importance of therapy. We also focus on the person and relationship building. Our ceremonies are centered on the people involved. For example, when leaders officiate weddings, they center the people getting married and their relationships. Our memorials are about honoring the people who have died, remembering their legacies, and celebrating their humanness. I have been present at Humanist baby naming ceremonies, coming of age platforms, weddings, and memorials. I can say with confidence that we absolutely prioritize people during these important parts of our lives. This focus on being human together is impossible when relying solely on ceremony. It just is. Because of our willingness to question tradition and reinvent what these events look like, many have remarked how lovely our services and ceremonies are, and how refreshing it is to recognize these milestones in our lives without reciting dogma or referencing the supernatural. This approach facilitates a much richer and more meaningful experience. And even those of faith have expressed an appreciation for our approach. We don't teach the existence of heaven or hell. We proceed on the presumption that this is the only life we have. Of course, our members are free to believe whatever they like, but we really don't discuss the afterlife or what happens to you when you die, not even at our memorials. We are more concerned with cultivating meaning during this life. Felix Adler himself stated, "Ethical culture is religious to those who are religiously minded, and merely ethical to those who are not so minded." This would be a revolutionary notion at any other church, and our congregation seems very different from faith communities. But I think we are similar to other religions because we have a congregational focus. We promote a set of values. We help people move through life while cultivating meaning and happiness. Like all religions, we have a perspective of how life should be lived, and we try to promote that perspective. But unlike some other religions, we don't necessarily believe there is only one right way to live. We are non-theistic. We are not scriptural. We're naturalistic in our approach. And we look to human beings and not to any gods for guidance. We don't believe in supernatural deities, so we put our effort and our faith in ourselves and in others. Because our communities are not concentrating on reciting proverbs or exalting some deity's name in prayer, we're fertile grounds for honest conversations, meaning making, and relationship building. I know I'm a humanist cheerleader. I can often make our movement sound utopian, and it is not. There is progress to be made in the areas of diversity, ethical action, and even equity. Also, even though our core values may seem basic at a glance, they're actually lofty, and some of them, if not all of them, can be challenging at times. One of our core values is that we can learn from everyone. Well, that seems to be a big challenge in these divisive times. How can we learn from people who seem antithetical to our values? From those who want to deny us our human rights? This month's theme is, I accept responsibility for my choices and actions. But that isn't as easy as it sounds. Do you flinch maybe just a little when you hear the word mistake or failure? Are you really hard on yourself when you make a mistake? Does it sometimes keep you up at night? Like it does me? When we fail or mess up, we should learn from it. And learning is often uncomfortable. Owning up for our mistakes stings. It challenges us to know and do better. It requires us to accept consequences. Another of our core values is every person deserves to be treated fairly and kindly. But not everyone is fair and kind to us or to the people that we love. How can we be kind to those who are cruel, to those who make us angry? Many people, from average everyday people to elected officials, make me question my kindness. And I see others questioning their kindness too. Here's a screenshot of an exchange that I had with one of my younger sisters and my best friend. Her name's Jenny. She asked me about a post I made on the Ethical Society of St. Louis's Facebook page, and I have her permission to share this exchange. I posted some quote art and it read, "Even if we disagree about everything, we can still be kind to each other." Jenny screenshot the quote art and messaged it to me. First, she asked me if I posted it. She seemed surprised. And then she said, "I find it very hard to be kind to people based on our disagreements." I replied, "Me too, but I strive to live that value." She typed back, "But I think that might be mainly because they are so harsh and mean to others." I advised her to show them kindness. "You can be kind with a spine," I said. And Jenny wrote, "I try." And I thought, don't we all? It's the best we can do. Jenny isn't the only one who struggled with this post. Someone replied to the post on Facebook, "I will not be kind to fascists, racists, neo-Nazis, transphobes, Islamophobes, bigots, or any other person of that ilk. They don't deserve any kindness, period, full stop." Another person replied on Twitter, "No, not if the matter of disagreement is about carelessness and willful ignorance of the opposing side." Even though I disagree with these comments, they are totally relatable. I do not judge the people making them. Not at all. I get it. I can empathize. I too question my kindness, but I land on the other side of the coin. I still feel every person deserves to be treated fairly and kindly. I still feel like I can learn from everyone, and I still strive to live those values. Are there times when I fall short? Absolutely. I try to learn from those moments and strive to do better next time. Having a big heart full of love for myself and others does help when trying to remain grounded in kindness. Still, I have to practice being kind every single day. It takes effort, not only with others, but even more so with myself. For some reason, it's easier for me to be kind to others than for me to be kind to me. My self-talk can be extremely negative at times, especially when I make a mistake or I fall short of my values. And these things occur almost daily. But when that happens, I gather my kindness. I take some deep breaths, and I remember I'm human. And I remember that I love myself, and I deserve the same kindness from myself that I afford others. I also assume the best in myself, and that helps too. As humanists, even though we, for the most part, embrace some core values, we also decide our values individually. We are free to develop our own moral codes through careful thought and consideration. Of course, I will not share all of the same values with everyone, not even all other humanists. And even if I do, I may not express those values in the same ways as others. Our ethical actions will look differently. We should be honest about that. There is a strength in the diversity of thought, approach, and opinion. We need clear definitions of what our values mean because it's dishonest to project an agreement that doesn't exist. The values that inform my ethical actions and behaviors include treating others well, being open-minded, and bringing out the best in others. But that doesn't mean I have to agree with them. Yes, I try to be brave in defense of my values, but the last thing I want is to be vindictive. Even if I dislike you, I still care about your safety and your well-being. But don't get me wrong, while I do try to be accepting of all people, I am not accepting of all behaviors nor ideas. Still, I can speak out against atrocities with kindness in my heart. One way of doing so is to go after the bad idea or action and not attack the individual personally. It breaks my heart to see people with which I agree belittling someone with which they disagree by calling them names, insulting their appearance, or making fun of their disabilities. This not only weakens the argument, but it also emboldens the people on the other side of the issue. And as naive as it may sound, we are truly all in this together. When we are unkind to others, we have given up on them. We leave them behind, and we need them. Because as one of our core values states, the stability and health of the world community depends on the cooperation of all people for peace and justice. I'm not saying we should hide our feelings or be kind for the sake of civility. Civility has been used as a tool of oppression against people of color for far too long, and that is not what I am advocating for. Negative feelings should not be ignored or repressed. Again, relationships are dishonest when people pretend there is an agreement when there isn't. I feel we should be honest about those disagreements and bring them to the surface in hopes of developing a greater understanding and building better, more effective relationships. If we can have these honest discussions centered in kindness, maybe we can find some common ground. And even if we cannot, we can be respectful and kind. If someone is trying to deny someone else's human rights, by all means, let's call them out. Let's stand up for the rights of others with love in our hearts. We can take to the streets in nonviolent protest. We can vote for our humanist values when electing our representatives. We can speak out with kindness. If people are personally mean to us, we can express our discontent and walk away, if that's what it comes to. But we don't have to stoop to their level and be unkind. Victims deserve justice, and incarcerated individuals still deserve kindness. It's one of my most unpopular opinions. When people harm others, there should be consequences and rehabilitation efforts, but there should be no cruelty. Hatred often cultivates more hate. It's powerful that way. But kindness can foster love and understanding. Kindness is defined as the quality of being friendly, generous, and considerate. It is a behavior marked by acts of concern for others without the expectation of praise or reward. Sounds like a very humanist value to me. To be kind speaks to our non-theistic values, and it is imperative that our non-theistic voices be heard, not drowned out by bullies or dismissed as the angry rhetoric of the radical left. Bullies don't deserve a seat at the table. We can tell them to leave in the kindest way possible, but before we do, let's try to reach them first. There are two approaches to interrupting bias and having difficult conversations. We can call people in and we can call people out. And I argue that both can be done with love and respect. We call people out when we need to let someone know that their words or actions are unacceptable and will not be tolerated. When we need to interrupt someone in order to prevent further harm, we call them out. Doing so will likely feel hard and uncomfortable, but it is necessary. And I think easier to do when centered in kindness. Calling people out allows us to hit the pause button, to break the momentum of the bad idea or the bigoted approach. We call people in when there is an opportunity to explore deeper, to make meaning together, and find a mutual sense of understanding across our differences. When we are seeking to understand or learn more, or when we want to help imagine different perspectives, possibilities, or outcomes, we can call people in. Calling people in provides for multiple perspectives and encourages paradigm shifts. When calling people in, it's best to focus on reflection and not reaction. Sometimes when we call people out, we're standing up for ourselves. Sometimes we're standing up for others. If someone hurts your feelings, you can say, wow, nope, ouch. I need you to stop right there. If you disagree, say so. I need to push back against that. I disagree. I don't see it that way. If someone says something offensive, I suggest calling them out by saying, that comment is really offensive. Please be mindful of others and choose your words thoughtfully. If someone is using what they think is humor to dehumanize others, you can say, I don't find that funny. Tell me why that's funny to you. Encourage them to defend their words. Oftentimes, they cannot justify what they have said. I was once on a trip with some journalism students, and one of them told a racist joke in the van. I turned off the music playing on the radio, and I let her know I was offended. I challenged her by asking why she thought that was funny. She apologized, said she was just repeating something she heard. I encouraged her to be more mindful and considerate of the impact of her words. Another time during the protests over the slaying of Mike Brown, I had a student tell me during a class discussion that he would simply run over protesters if they were in his way. I repeated what I heard back to him. I said, it sounded like you just said you would murder people for peacefully protesting so that you can get to a Cardinals game on time. Is that right? Is that really what you said? He backtracked and said he ultimately wouldn't want to hurt anyone. He too was repeating dangerous, dehumanizing talking points that he hadn't considered deeply. Sometimes calling people out doesn't work. And if someone continues to harm or offend you, you can say, I need to leave this room if the conversation is going to continue down this road, or you could ask them to leave. I suggest being firm and being kind with a spine. Sometimes we want to call people in. How can we be accepting of all people but not of all behaviors? Sometimes there's an opportunity to explore deeper meaning making and find a mutual sense of understanding across our differences. And in these moments, I strive to call out the behavior while calling in the person. I think the best way to do this is to ask questions. Don't make assumptions when calling people in, and challenge the assumptions being made by others. I also encourage you to be curious. You could ask, what was your intention when you said that? And when we think about intent and impact, I think we should remember that impact is ultimately what matters most. If behavior causes harm, intent does little to comfort those who are hurt. You can call someone in by asking them about their words or actions or about their intent and impact. How might the impact of your words and actions differ from your intent? Or what sort of impact do you think your decision, comment, or action might have? You could ask. Empathy is very important. When we are calling someone in, we should ask them to think about other perspectives. You could ask, how might someone else see this differently? Is it possible that someone might misinterpret your words or actions? Or what would other stakeholders say, think, or feel? When having anti-racist discussions, I will often call people in by asking them to consider how their own comfort levels, assumptions, expectations, prior experiences, and privileges may be influencing their beliefs, decisions, actions, and approaches. When compromising, I might ask someone, in your opinion, what is the best case scenario? I think these questions and this approach can reveal fundamental differences in a productive way. Exploring these differences can not only help us facilitate moments of growth and learning, but also bring about instances of agreement and understanding. I know it may feel like we'll never reach some people, those who are so full of hate and misunderstanding it makes our heads spin. But I find these poetic words from Ray Bradbury give me such hope for my kindness. He wrote in Fahrenheit 451, "We cannot tell the precise moment when friendship is formed. As in filling a vessel, drop by drop, there is at last a drop which makes it run over. So in a series of kindnesses, there is at last one which makes the heart run over." I believe if we listen to one another and treat each other with dignity and respect, we can find a way to actually learn from everyone and ultimately make the world a better and more just place. Even when we're angry, even when we're hurt, there's too much at stake for us to give in to the pain and lash out. When people are acting in an unkind way, I try to put them to shame by being kind. This doesn't mean giving in, and it doesn't require me to compromise my values. It simply means being considerate and coming from a place of love for others. And that love is not for the bully and not for the oppressor. For me, I draw on my love of the harmed, voiceless, and oppressed. This love gives me courage. For me, kindness is everything because it grounds us in love and relationship. Regardless of what we believe, we can come together in kindness and solve some, if not all, of the pressing problems we face. We can unite to further compassion and lessen suffering. We can be human together. Because ultimately, what we believe matters much less than how we treat one another. Sue Monk Kidd wrote in the Book of Longings, "Anger is effortless, kindness is hard." My hope for us is that we find the strength to be kind to ourselves and to others. Because without this kindness, it becomes even more challenging to live our values and transform our world. Thank you for spending time with me today. I look forward to answering your questions and further discussing this topic shortly after our meeting ends.